Welcome to the Tech Destination Pakistan podcast. I'm your host, Amir Anzur, Chief Marketing Officer of Pakistan Software Export Board. Today, I have a very special guest, Khalid Keenan, who is the co-founder and CEO of ElevatePay.co. And this is a great modern software that helps do cross-border payments. We're going to learn a lot about how you bring back money into the country if you might be working as a freelancer, or you might have some work that you've done from around the world and how that all works. It's a Y Combinator-backed company. It's got $5 million in funding, so it's got money behind it as well. Khalid, just talk us through how you got starting this company. How long ago was that? And just guide us through your journey a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Amir. So we started towards the start of 2022. Really, we saw a big pain point in emerging markets around US dollar payments. Specifically, we could see there was a large trend in remote work that was just growing and growing. And you could see from the likes of platforms like Upwork that made it very easy for freelancers to find work. Then you had platforms like Deal, which made it very easy for international companies to hire remote staff. So kind of the world was moving to a place where it was very easy to start recruiting and having international companies have remote workers from all around the world, not just the UK, the US, and Europe. However, where we saw there was a lag was really in people's ability to receive payments. So Pakistan's a great example where there was such a large number of such a large amount of talent who were basically starting to work in the IT export world, but just such limited abilities to be able to receive payments. So what you ended up seeing was people in Pakistan as well as other emerging markets would be working for US companies, for example, receiving high-end salaries, but then losing a substantial portion of that when they were receiving the payments home. They were losing anywhere up to 7-8% on fees. That for us looked like a large gap in the market that needed to be fixed. And that's where we moved to start thinking about building Elevate Pay.
So how much are fees? So what I hear a lot of is that Payoneer, for instance, is one of the big players. How much do they charge in percentage terms for me as a freelancer if I'm sitting in Pakistan, roughly?
Yeah, so it's a good point, and it's all really about the take home. So what we do similar to Payoneer is both of us give you US dollar accounts. We give you a dollar account directly with a US bank. Payoneer issues you a USD wallet under their licensing. Now, when you get paid from your employer into your account, that's where the fees potentially start. So with us, for example, if you get paid $1,000, say, we'll take no fees on that. $1,000 comes into your account. Payoneer, for example, might take 1% on that. So there's already some cost gone there. And then the really big charges that people tend to feel is what happens when they move money back to their home countries. So in a lot of cases, those charges can be extremely expensive, depending if you're using old rails like Swift. But even the likes of Payoneer, for example, now will take what it used to be up to 3%, but now with changes in pricing, I think earlier in the year, now come up to 4% when sending back to Pakistan. We like to stick a lot closer to the real FX rates. So we limit our fees, but what you're looking at with us is once you've sent the bulk of the money home, we're anywhere between 0.5% to 0.75, depending on the day and the fluctuations in the market. We've tried to follow much more, for a lot of people who are in the space will know the likes of Wise. We've tried to follow their model where they just try and keep the FX rates as low as possible and just work on onboarding as many customers as you can and kind of working on volume.
Amazing. So what are the challenges that you see people in Pakistan? Because I think your focus is Pakistan and Bangladesh, right? Why do these countries have challenges in not having PayPal or Wise and these types of payment gateways?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we've picked Pakistan and Bangladesh to start with, specifically really Pakistan, just because, frankly, the IT service export sector is just so large. Kind of the talent coming out of Pakistan when it comes to areas like IT, software services, as well as other areas like export, Amazon FBAs and so on, is huge. The problem with that, though, however, is when you look at traditional financial institutions or even the fintechs that are based in the US, when they look at Pakistan, they're not looking at the IT sector. They're looking at these countries as a whole based on, what you could call, I'd say, either the history or the modern history, right? So they're just looking at it strictly from a geography perspective. They look at Pakistan and they're like, okay, this is extremely high risk for whatever reasons, whether it's money laundering, terror finance, and they're all the stuff that compliance generally needs to worry about. But what they don't account for is they don't look into the specific country to figure out, okay, well, there is this subset of users that are genuinely very, very creditworthy users, very low risk users, because they're just working for US companies, European companies. And a lot of these users at the end of the day, they're using these platforms to receive their salaries. So in essence, they're really low risk because the chance of someone, carrying out malpractice with an account that they need to receive salaries into is very low. So the approach we try to take is we don't, and really this is a case of us trying to kind of educate our US banking partners on this, is we're like, look, we understand the geography is high risk, but don't look at the geography, look at the specific subset of users we're onboarding. We're not onboarding the whole world here. We're onboarding users who have contracts with US companies, who have contracts with international companies, who are earning off Upwork, who are earning off Fiverr, and basically recognized platforms. That's really why there's been historical challenges when onboarding these customers, and that's how we try to solve it, by basically, you're almost kind of showcasing and promoting the real good talent in the country to say, this is really what you could be focusing on. Forget the rest of the risk.
And what is the rest of the risk? What is the worst case scenario? Like, they talk about anti-money laundering and what do bad players, what do they do in the market?
Really, there's three things you really need to watch out for, especially if you the thing with this is you need to look at it from a US bank's perspective, because at the end of the day, we're giving you US bank accounts. They're really looking at three things. Number one, probably the highest thing on their radar is terror financing. Then you're looking at money laundering, and then you're looking at controlling fraud. So from a terror financing perspective, obviously historically in the region, not just really in Pakistan, but kind of the Middle East and South Asia region in general, unfortunately over the past 25 years, from the US perspective, terror has been a big concern. So terror financing for them is really something that you need to make sure that you're controlling. And you do that by doing sanctions checks, making sure people are on prohibited lists and so on. Then you have money laundering. Money laundering is a risk that's regardless of the country you're in. Nefarious activities happening in the US. Are people using it to kind of bring money on, move money quickly? And for that, you can use, this is really general for all financial institutions where they have compliance programs in place to try and track if there's money laundering going on board. For example, just to give you, say you sign up and your job is I'm a graphic designer on Upwork, but suddenly, 10 payments come in for 10K one day after another. They're the types of flag that you can quickly see, well, this is clearly not a graphic designer working here. So that's the type of stuff you need to catch. And then the final risk would be fraud. And unfortunately, this does happen in a number of markets, but kind of, you've seen it happen within Pakistan, India, Nigeria, kind of some of these high risk markets. People committing fraud from within the country, romance scams and the like of that, and basically scamming people in the US, for example, out of their money and moving it back.
Okay. And your go-to market strategy in Pakistan, how are people finding out about Elevate Pay?
One of the things we want to do is we really want to localize. Like if you look at us, when we're talking about the likes of Payoneer and Wise and PayPal, we're really tripling down on the countries that we've started in. So, for example, in Pakistan, we're trying to partner with as many of the local institutions that matter as we can. This is a prime example, right? PSEB, you're a kind of software export board. You're kind of there to make life easier for freelancers and IT service companies. We want to do work with you so that we can get out there and, be known that we're building a service that simplifies payments for freelancers and IT companies in Pakistan. Influencers we've worked with before, or people who are respected within the freelancing community. We once did a podcast with Hisham Sarwar with HBA services and these type of popular. We're now potentially going to partner with enablers who target people like the Amazon FBA space. And then really a lot of the other stuff is we're really looking to build features that are very specific to, like, if you look at Pakistan, for example, it's one thing to just offer FX back there, but most of the large players like Wise and Payoneer are not really going to the efforts of figuring out, okay, but how do we ensure that people can get their tax rebates on it? We're working on trying to solve problems like ensuring that we can issue, the receivers can receive the correct PRC certificates, so that people can get the correct tax incentive. Stuff like that is what we're doing to hopefully not only build a better product for the customer, but also be able to differentiate ourselves from kind of players that are a lot more global, like Payoneer and Wise.
And how is building a global startup different in the emerging markets rather than sort of the mature markets, as they call them?
Yeah, no, it's really the key things is it really comes back to a lot of what we talked about, in the sense that we really just need to educate kind of the US banking partners we work with that a lot of these markets have a lot of, firstly, exceptional talent. And then secondly, basically what we'd like to see is that kind of just you need to be able to convey to the players in the US that the customers you're onboarding are probably lower risk than a lot of the customers in the US, because you're really onboarding people who have professional credentials here and are working professionally for US companies and international companies. The biggest challenge we have kind of, if we were just targeting, for example, customers in the UK, we wouldn't need to cross that hurdle. People would just assume you're targeting low risk customers. Whereas now a lot of what we do with our banking partners is basically trying to convince them to do that. And it does come with a challenge. And part of that is our responsibility is to kind of ensure that, how can you build something to ensure that you're not only convincing one bank, but multiple banks, so that you offer redundancy in the future should anything occur with one banking partner, which can happen. There's a lot of players that go up and down in the higher risk emerging markets. But what we're really doing is we're really here to stay in these markets, regardless of the challenges we face. We're trying to build everything around these markets.
And what role does government play in enhancing the freelance workforce?
I think it's critical, right? Because, we talked about kind of tax incentives, rebates. You need to make life as simple as possible for remote workers to be able to work for international customers, which at the end of the day benefits the country because you're bringing in a lot of foreign income. What you tend to see, there are countries that we've served potentially where the government isn't really, as proactive. Like if you look at, we have some customers from Egypt, but it's so much more difficult for them to be served properly. There's no real tax incentives for them. Payments coming in aren't that easy to process. There isn't really a whole ecosystem being built to train up make people aware firstly that there is the possibility for remote income, then train them initially, then upskill them, then support them with tax incentives, then give them the ability, focus on things like high-speed broadband and so on, or high-speed internet, so that they can actually execute the work. I think if you don't have the government behind you, backing you, you make things very, very difficult to be able to, one, find the work, two, sustain the work, and then three, receive the income for it.
And why is Pakistan a primary market for Elevate?
A couple of reasons. Number one, just the core reason is just the sheer size of the IT service export market. I think obviously estimates differ, but the last I saw, people were saying that IT service export through freelancing is coming over 5 billion now. Like, it's clearly a priority in terms of this is a real source of income for the country. I think what you're also starting to see is Pakistan is now evolving from the case of it's no longer a country where people see, oh, let's go for some low, cheap IT work. A lot of the more skilled roles are now happening in Pakistan. If you look at the, senior software engineers are now getting hired by them. A lot of what's happening in AI, for example, and a lot of the AI engineers, if you look at a lot of them are coming out of Pakistan, you're starting to see a lot of startups come out of Pakistan that are now starting to be funded by YC. So I don't think it's just the sheer scale of the number of freelancers and remote workers and so on, but I think the quality is showing there. And maybe a good statistic to show that is, I think Pakistan is at least the top 5 country with Deal. So if we know Deal is kind of the largest employer of record that a lot of US companies use, Pakistan is now probably coming up to be kind of the top 1 or 2 countries on a platform like that. So just when you've got a country this size, earning this much in dollar amounts, but have such poor services for US dollar earnings, like it's almost a perfect match, really.
How many service providers would you say there are like Elevate Pay that can solve this payment problem? Is it like 5, 20, 100?
I would say under five currently. If we're talking about Pakistan specifically,
Yeah.
I would say under five really. You've got, I mean, obviously Payoneer is the largest one. There's ourselves included. I know there are other solutions out there, like for example, SadaPay, the local player, has built a really cool feature around being able to receive dollar payments via invoices. But apart from that, the other kind of famous ones, the PayPals and the Wise, are not really serving Pakistan. Even Mercury, if you know it for business accounts, because we now do business accounts, they used to support US incorporated companies that were owned by Pakistanis. So a lot of, for example, a lot of freelancers who would now kind of go to set up their own company would incorporate in the US and bank. They're no longer being supported. So it's a very small choice. And historically, that's what's caused there to be extremely high pricing when it comes to things like FX. So we're hoping we can expand the options at least.
And your application is completely live, right? Like anyone can go use it.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's live. Any freelancer or remote worker in Pakistan can onboard. There's the typical KYC process you need to go through where you'll just need a national ID, a passport, a selfie, and all we'll need is a proof of address and then a proof of remote work. So that can be your Upwork statement of earnings. It can be your PSEB export certificate, your registration with PSEB. It could be your employment contract with an employer. We now also do business accounts. That's both for US incorporated companies with Pakistani founders, as well as Pakistani Association of Partners or private companies. So if you're building mobile applications, for example, as a company, but you have US clients, we can onboard you to receive payments from them.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So, and how big is your team at the moment?
We're around 20.
Yeah.
We're around 20. We've got, I believe, sorry, 4 members now in Pakistan that we're hopefully looking to grow over time. We're really looking to grow our engineering team out there. Our compliance team is some based in the US. It has to be because of our US banking partners. We also have some team members in Dubai in the Middle East, just because of the countries we're serving, Egypt, Bangladesh, Pakistan. But hopefully, inshallah, we'll be growing.
Oh, wow. And what city have you picked, by the way, in Pakistan, or is it remote?
Currently remote. If I had to have a best guess, I would assume it would be one of Lahore or Karachi, given just the huge amount of kind of freelancers working out of that region. For example, now we're about to announce a partnership with Colabs where we're sponsoring a freelancer fellowship program. So Colabs, for example, would be a great location for us to base from.
Amazing. So you guys are doing a lot of great work, and I think it solves one of the biggest headaches that people have is bringing in payments. Now, talk to me about how the process works. You have an app, like if I'm a freelancer sitting in Islamabad, do I have to download an app or how does it work? And
Exactly. You just
let's say you're in New York, Khalid is in New York and I'm in Islamabad.
Yeah, it's easy really. You just go onto the App Store or the Play Store for Google, just download Elevate Pay. Once you've downloaded the app, you sign in, just put in your personal details, kind of name, address, date of birth, very typical banking details. We'll then ask you to run through KYC. So you'll just need to take a picture of yourself, a short video, upload your national ID or your passport, give us a proof of address and your proof of remote work. And then within 24 hours, you should basically have an account opened. You then have a US dollar bank. That's a real account with our banking partner, Merchant Commercial Bank. It's FDIC insured. So it's backed by the US Fed. And at that point, you can just start receiving payments as if you've got an account in the US. So, you know, what we like to say is it's no different to you really getting on a plane, flying to the US, opening a bank account there, except that you don't need to do that anymore. And then from your employee's perspective, it's easy for them now because they just feel they're no different to paying a US citizen. They'll just put in the routing number, account number, and it's a simple payment.
So when I'm asking for payment in the US, I would just be asking for, it would just say routing number 1234 and checking number. How do they
an
pay?
account number? Yeah,
An account number.
Different.
And then that's all I need to give them, these 2 fields and my name maybe.
Exactly.
Company name. And is there a monthly fee?
No monthly fee, no inbound fee. So if you sign up, we'll open an account for free. It's free to maintain. It's free to receive money into it. we only charge a fee when we do FX.
And you're also insured, right? Like in the UK, for instance, if the bank collapses, you get up to 85,000 pounds back. How much is the insured amount in with Elevate Pay?
Correct. So the US owns the compensation scheme. In the US, there's the FDIC insured scheme. So the FDIC, which is the US banking regulator, will insure accounts, each individual account, up to $250,000 in the case that the bank collapses.
Okay, perfect. So my money is safe.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, the one thing to know with us as well is the deposits aren't held with Elevate Pay. You get into an agreement both with Elevate Pay as the app provider, but it's the bank at the end of the day that hosts your account. So the license partner is the banking entity. So in essence, your deposits are always with a banking institution.
Okay, so when I want to withdraw the money, so the money comes into my US bank account, and when I want to withdraw the money in Pakistan, I just go to an ATM, or do I do a bank transfer?
It's just an it's an instant FX payout from your app. So you just log into Elevate Pay app, you put in your account number, you say I want to send $1,000 in the equivalent in PKR, so what that, whatever that will be, 28,000 or what have you. And then that will then arrive in your bank, typically in under 30 minutes because of instant settlement, 7 days a week, 24/7. So if you want to withdraw it, you can withdraw it to your bank, or you can send it to your Jazz Cash or Naya Pay. They're also integrated into us.
Wow, that's exceptional. Okay, so really making the job of freelancers easy. And as you said, there's no cost to sign up, right? So you're just taking a percentage on each value. So people watching this can sign up and they've got nothing to lose. They'll just have to bring in their national ID or their passport. And the only sort of, I know KYC stands for Know Your Customer. The only pain is sometimes people don't have the bank statements in their name or the utility bills. But if they can get a utility bill in their name, then they're good to go.
Exactly. Something like a phone contract, a mobile contract.
Could a mobile phone contract work like Jazz?
Mobile phone contract works. Your Jazz Cash statement, your Naya Pay statement.
Okay.
Anything really like that.
Excellent. That's really, really great. I think you guys offer a really great service. And you're focused on Islam and Pakistan is one of your top 3 countries, right? And you think you can grow big here. From my understanding, we do about 30 billion in remittances. And so but your niche is IT freelance.
Correct. Yeah. So we don't really focus so much on people living abroad, bringing money in. So, Pakistanis living in the US, sending money. We focus on those living in Pakistan who are working for international companies.
And when I go on, let's say Upwork, does it give me an option to say pay via Elevate Pay? And it has an option of all these?
It's not via Elevate Pay, but the easy thing with Upwork is you just say direct to bank transfer. Because it's a US bank, it will just do an ACH, and the benefit is it's free.
What's an ACH?
So the ACH is just a local, it's just a local payment rails used in the US. So it's basically the way payments get sent in the US.
And what's a payment rail?
So payment rail is basically the system used to transfer the money. So in Pakistan, for example, I believe you have one link sometimes used for instant transfers. Just a similar version in the US, you can use wires, Swift. ACH is the local one. In Europe, they have SEPA. In UK, they have faster payments. In the US, it's called ACH.
Now gotten into, what was your background before doing Elevate Pay?
I was a software engineer.
Okay.
So I was a software engineer for a long time.
Not in the financial sector or in the fintech?
Always within financial sector, but I used to work for investment banks in credit risk, liquidity risk, and market risk. Okay. And then some funds and finance and fintech. So I've always been a software engineer, but always within the financial space.
Okay. And what would you say, like which country has the best payment solutions that you might have come across? Is it like Europe or US or?
Europe in general is very, very good. Because they've connected all the countries to the SEPA network and with instant settlements, they tend to be very good in terms of the ability to receive payments. It's also easy for someone in the in Europe to open a dollar account, an Australian dollar, a Canadian dollar account. So it's extremely easy to be a remote worker there. Mm-hmm. Additionally, kind of the regulators in Europe have been they've pushed the banks a lot to open up a lot of their bankings through this open banking model. And that's meant that it's kind of created space for a lot of fintechs, create a lot of products. So there's a lot of competition, which means the fees basically come down to near zero. So if I'm a contractor in the UK, say I can open up Starling, Revolut, Wise, I've got a million options, which means because they compete a lot, it's very cheap for me to receive funds.
Okay.
So I think Europe, and we're trying to bring that same kind of level of accessibilities to the countries we're serving.
And the headquarters of Elevate Pay at the moment is Dubai, right?
Currently, yeah, the main office we're based in is in Dubai, but our parent entity is in the US, which has to be there because of we're partnering with US banks.
And are you allowed to say which US banks?
Yeah. So it's Merchant Commercial Bank currently. We're working with First Citizen Bank for business accounts. And there's a couple more banks we're hopefully going to onboard by the end of this year and towards Q1.
And you can get a personal account and a business account, yes?
Correct. Yeah. You can open up a business account. That would be under your business entity name.
Yeah.
And your personal account is under your name. So they're used for different purposes.
And okay. And what about tax implications? So if I try to bring in money into the country, there's a tax implication, right?
Yeah. I mean, the tax implication depends by country. So realistically, obviously, I'm not a tax expert in Pakistan, but really all income you're earning, you should be declaring anyway. So whether you're earning it internationally or not. So for example, if I'm a UK citizen and I get paid into a US account, I still have to declare all those earnings and pay tax on it because I'm resident in the UK. It would be the same within Pakistan. You'd still be responsible to declare your tax income.
Okay.
And one of the things actually we're doing now is we're partnering with a company called Befiler. We want to just start putting a lot of content out in terms of tax within Pakistan to educate both freelancers, remote workers, as well as businesses.
Okay, excellent. Khalid, that's been really educational. What is your message to people that are thinking about trying out Elevate Pay? What should they do? What are the next steps? How can they get more about it and feel reassured that it's a good investment?
Yeah, look, I think the easiest thing to do, because it's free to open, free to receive money, just download the app. If you're earning money in dollars as a freelancer, as a remote worker from any of the big Upworks, and you're using Payoneer, give us a try. It costs you nothing to do it. And you'll immediately see there's a significant amount you can save in terms of your take home.
What about Wise? Like, how do you compare yourself to Wise?
Look, I'll be honest, I think Wise is an exceptional company. We actually try to model a lot of ourselves on what Wise do. No shame in saying that. I think they've built a brilliant product. But the difference is with us is we feel Wise has been built for US and European customers. We're trying to build Wise specifically for customers in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and so on.
Well, I mean, I mentioned Wise because they're not legally, you can't open up an account for Wise here.
Yeah.
So you don't have that option. So if we go with Elevate Pay, at least you can get a US bank account, which you can't. And just to confirm, you don't need a US entity business. If I have a business account, but do I need, let's say if I want to open up a business account, do I need to open up a business in Pakistan first?
The option's really up to you. So the way we see a lot of it, some people will already have Pakistani businesses or Pakistani partnerships or the Association of Partners. They're two options you could do. Some people do prefer to open US entities for the sake of their clients, where they'll open a Delaware entity, but they'll be the owners of it. That's also supported. Some people open up UK entities. So it's really up to you how you do it. But as long as you have a business entity, you can open a business account. But if you're an individual who doesn't have an entity, but you still earn money for freelancing remote work, you can just open an account in your name as an individual.
And you won't be paying any fees at the end of the year or monthly. You'll just only be paying a percentage, which is, again, about how much?
Correct. So like you'll pay, there's no fees taken at the end of the year. You'll just pay, when you send money to Pakistan, there's just a flat fee of $1.50. And we try to keep as close to the Bloomberg rate as possible, but it will typically be 0.5 to 0.75% away from the market rate.
Okay, excellent. Khaled Keenan, that's been really, really great. I think it's a great solution for freelancers. And so I think they should go out and try out elevatepay.co. As Pakistan Software Export Board, we don't endorse one or the other. Try out, but we want to spread the word about what is available out there, because people do struggle to have these financial payments. PayPal not being existent here, Wise not being here. So if Elevate Pay is solving that problem, then it's one to check out. Do your own research and your own homework, but they're really good guys, good enthusiastic entrepreneurs, and I'm sure they're solving a big problem. So go out and try Elevate Pay. So this has been Amir Anzur from Tech Destination Pakistan, from the Pakistan Software Export Board. Thanks, Khalid Keenan, co-founder and CEO of Elevate Pay.